What's up, folks? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review NF's new project, or not new, but 2017 project, Perception. So NF has had a pretty good buzz across the past few years. I've heard this guy, but I didn't realize I had heard this guy just because a lot of the stuff on the radio sounds similar in a lot of ways, but I've noticed like with songs like Let You Down and Lie that I do know who NF is, and I heard him a lot on the radio across the past few years. I probably heard some of his standalone singles, some of the ones off his 2019 album, and possibly even some of the ones off his new 2021 project Clouds. I mean, he's been here for a while. He's quickly becoming a staple on like recent day radio and stuff. He's getting up there like with a decent catalog of stuff that you'll hear on the airway. And I kind of wanted to cover this guy because it seems like his buzz is just getting larger. So I wanted to kind of cover the project that to me was his breakout, which was Perception. And the thing about it is this album had like five singles attached to it, but two of them were the ones that charted the highest. But I would say around my neighborhood, which is kind of Missouri, that it seems like a lot of these singles were kind of picked up. He has charted a little bit on like Christian rap radio and that sort of stuff, but I would have to say that the way that he kind of is starting to separate and kind of expand like his versatility and be on radio now. It's there's some stuff that's on here, and that's kind of the thing about this project. That's what I noticed. I mean, I walked into it with some optimism because I wanted to know if there were more songs like Let You Down, and I was kind of hoping that maybe he had some good guests on here also, but that's kind of the situation as the two complaints I have. For one thing, there's no guests on this project. You don't get to see if he's buddies with anyone else or who he actually vibes with and kind of hangs out with. He doesn't curse on this project, so there's no explicit copy, and he doesn't have any guests besides this singer chick named Ruel. So, but he does have guests on his new project Cloud, so I'm glad for that. But then the other thing is just the fact that some of this album is kind of trap. And that's kind of the thing. I mean, it kind of blends it, but it doesn't do a very good job of blending it. I feel like NF is at his best when he's trying to embrace the radio and kind of reach something that has like because I feel like he could be like a face a decent face of rap music just with his kind of off the wall and kind of left field approach. I mean, because he's similar to Eminem. He's not quite as party animal as Post Malone. He's not quite as sophisticated as G-Eazy. Not quite as brash as MGK. But he has like his own niche to kind of be able to say like, as far as that's concerned, kind of losing my train of thought here. He's kind of I feel like he could be a decent face of music if he were to. Yeah, I'm really losing my train of thought. He could be a decent face of music if he were to make more song. He could be a decent face of music if he were to make more angled songs like Let You Down, and he kind of does it. That's the thing. It's kind of split. I mean, he does trap in more aggressive moments, but then he also does like things that he knows that are probably going to get spins on the airways, or more presentable, more uniform, more makeshift, and that sort of stuff. And that to me is like his process. But unfortunately, it just isn't interesting. It's just not interesting when there's not solid guests and things that can back up his beliefs and that sort of stuff and motions to kind of put forth when it's just solely a one man army, which I haven't really been too big a fan of as to when that happens. But as far as that's concerned, it is a decent project. It's not superb, but the tastes that I got from like the good songs show me that if that would have been more filled out, he probably could have delivered like a modern day almost classic. I mean, it's definitely, it may not be like Marshall Mathers LP, but it's probably like a decent Ludacris album, something like that. It's probably like Back for the First Time, something that was good but not classic. And that's kind of what you're getting with this sort of project, is just being able to say it has potential and it definitely is interesting in the good moments, but it's nowhere to the point of being able to say like it's like ahead of the pack, in terms of it's not head and shoulders above some of these fellows that are out there, but it does have that spark, and that's definitely a good thing. So, but yeah, so we'll talk about like the singles now. So I liked 4 out of 5 of these singles. The only single I didn't like was the first one, which is Outro. Kind of seemed awkward for the first single to promote this project being the last song on the album. I mean, sometimes I've seen musicians put out the intro as far as a single, but this is one of the trap songs that I was talking about that just kind of lacks like pungentness about it. I mean, it's. I mean, he doesn't curse, and it's more of him kind of explaining like the real. He kind of dislikes to give a taste of reality more so than does more threatening things. But if you're not into those sorts of vibes of just getting reality checks and that sort of stuff, it's not going to really. It's just like, you know. So I mean, obviously he has better moments when he has more kind of on the brain, but I did like Green Lights, and that's kind of a trap oriented song also, but it's more interesting, kind of has a better approach to it, and um, I did like that. I mean, for the most part, unless you are like Migos or Future or like Gunna or some of them cats that are proficient at like doing trap and that sort of stuff, to kind of release a trap song as a single right off the bat kind of showcases this is the direction that could have been for this project. And once again, I mean, this song didn't chart as high as it could have, but it did good. I mean, it's interesting. I'll give him that. Probably as long as like the production is interesting, I'd probably be able to say I could handle his trap. But I feel like his strength is in his mainstream songs, which leads me to the third single, which is Let You Down. I mean, more than likely, if you've listened to rap radio or urban or rhythmic radio in recent times, you've probably heard a song like this. I mean, it's even on like the regular Billboard. You'd probably hear this on like a pop radio station too. It's basically NF's highest charting song. It's got a good hook, good stuff like that. I mean, it's it's um it's just real neat, but then at the same time it's approachable. I mean, that's the thing. I don't actually, most of the time when a radio single charts and it hits this high on the radio, I don't like it, but this is actually a song on the radio that's pretty stellar. And it's the same thing with the follow-up single Lie. I mean, both of these are staples in the radio around where I live, and they were good. I mean, that's the thing about them. They definitely had a punch to them. This is like a good 1-2 punch. I wish he had a third single that charted like this one. He did at least attempt to with If You Want Love, and I don't know if my radio station picked up this one. I've heard Let You Down and Lie on the radio, but I don't know if I've heard the song after that, because those were his two breakouts around here. But If You Want Love was the last single from this project, and it came out way out in 2019, over a year after this album had come out. And it's another good song. I mean, it's like acoustic in there. It's just a similar approach to Let You Down and Lie. And if you like that sort of approach, that's just exactly what it's more of. It's just more kind of softer and more makeshift. But these are good. I mean, that's the thing. NF knows how to do it. He's not stale when he does this sort of thing. Like someone like Eminem, he can be stale when he does that. He kind of seems like he's selling out, but NF, this kind of feels like this fits his groove a little bit better. But all right, so kind of talk about the rest of this project. Like I was trying to say before, this project does not have a bunch to talk about in the trap department. There are ones like 100 and Remember This, and what else? No, and Outro and Outcast, and some of those songs that just don't really do that stellar a job at capturing like other dimensions for him. I feel like he definitely has the mainstream radio part down, but he's not quite, it's just not as interesting to kind of see him doing that sort of thing. There are other folks there are other folks who do better jobs at doing this sort of thing. It feels like it's something that's kind of still in the shop. It needs more work, and the angles that he's trying to do. I wish that there were like more things, because like with Tupac, I mean, you think of someone like Tupac. Could you see Tupac on a trap type song? He did West Coast music, but he also did rap. When you look at like California Love and How Do You Want It, those were not songs that were just West Coast. Those were just good rap songs. And I'm kind of waiting for that sort of stuff to kind of branch out. I mean, to kind of go into like a subgenre of trap, I feel like he probably should have just picked some better beats, or just kind of a thing that knocks this project down a bit is some of the production on here is not quite as interesting. Like songs like My Life, You're Special, uh, Remember This. Some of those songs just don't really have, interesting beats and that sort of stuff. Even Destiny. So I mean, he does manage to do it in like the radio songs, but other than that, it just, I mean, there's a lot that needs to be fleshed out more, and that's just kind of the thing. I look at some of this project, and I have to say, I mean, it feels really half baked. I mean, that's the thing, because maybe if this would have been like a 10 song project, this would probably get like a 9 or 8, 8.5, 9, 10 out of 10. But there's too much on here when he's trying to flesh out his ability to be a further musician, but you realize that he's really just for the radio. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say, is he's just more for the airways, and it's not really like you're getting turned up to this guy. I don't see too many people gonna speed out and speed on the highway to this car and vibe out and get crunk and that sort of stuff, go to bars and dance clubs and raves and that sort of stuff. NF is not the person for that. That is kind of the situation. So when you look at it, I feel like it's just like you listen to him at work, you listen to him when you're getting home from work, you listen to him when you're kind of in a more formal setting, and then occasionally just something like that. I mean, some of these songs are good to ruminate, and that's kind of the thing. They are good to ruminate and kind of reflect in that sort of thing, but he's just not a very recreational dude in terms of that. And I don't know if he smokes or stuff like that. I get the feeling he doesn't, but that's just kind of the thing, is it's very insular, if that's like the correct word. It seems like insular kind of is. But so I'm gonna give this album, now that I've covered all that, I'm gonna give this album basically a 5 out of 10. And I'll go ahead and tell you the songs on top of that that I enjoyed, that I recommend to you. So there were 7 out of 16. So here they are: Let You Down, Lie, If You Want Love, Green Lights, 3 a.m., 10 Feet Down, and Dreams. All of these kind of had that radio approach, and it's just like I said, I mean, this is him. These are his strengths, and if he were to expand upon these sorts of things, we might have had like a more stellar project. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted a whole radio ready project, but he needed a few more tricks up his sleeve besides radio type songs to be able to do, and it's not trap, I'll tell you that. It seems like it's at least hip and trendy, but it doesn't work for him. So those are the 7 songs. I'll give the Social Score like an 8. I think that's about good enough, just because 5 singles is pretty good, even though 2 of them were only the ones that really charted. But then there was a third one that kind of did. It was kind of like a last ditch kind of thing, but it worked. I mean, 3 out of 5 is pretty good, but just the fact that there were 5, so 8 out of 10 there. And yeah, I mean, I just would have to kind of say, I mean, this is good stuff from NF, but I just kind of feel like probably I want more dimensions from him, and I hope he does that on Clouds, his newest project, and stuff like that. But I mean, his strengths. To say one more thing about that, his strengths are definitely good. I mean, when he's in the moment, and it's actually when he's kicking ass, it truly rocks. But it's just not. It doesn't happen nearly enough.